Hello, podcast listeners. I'm Jeff Davis. This week, my vehicle sits in the driveway as both my guests will appear on the Wine Phone. Nonetheless, you are listening to On the Wine Road podcast.
We're looking to kind of get back to the classics and a little bit back into lower intervention winemaking and also at a lower price point.
We've been working that long to find the world's best wines and make them available to people in great condition.
He's David Parker of Benchmark Wine Group, the largest online seller of rare and fine wines for wine retailers, restaurants, collectors, and you, if you're so inspired to visit their website. And you just might be after you hear my interview with him later in the hour. My first guest is Michael Accurso. He's the winemaker of the new brand Post and Beam, offered by Napa Valley's Far Niente family of wines. It's a throwback to a simpler time and a nod to the construction method of historic barns that dot the American landscape on farms and ranches. Far Niente was founded in 1885. Like many, it was forced to close its gates during Prohibition. Then 60 years after its founding, Gil Nickel of Nickel and Nickel fame bought and restored the old winery. Since then, it has consistently been recognized as a benchmark producer of Napa Valley Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon. I started off by asking Michael how it feels to be working for such an historic winery.
It's a great feeling. I have absolutely the utmost respect for, historic brands in Napa, and there's a handful of them. They're highly clouded wineries, highly clouded winemaking positions. So quite frankly, to be able to be in a spot where you can work for one of these wineries is kind of a dream. So there's a long history and tradition that comes with working for a place like that, but it makes you really proud to be a part of it because there's a lot of people who kind of come into the Napa Valley or even Sonoma or surrounding areas and have these ambitions of starting a winery, and they think it's just kind of, they think it's a lot more romantic than they realize, and then they see how much hard work it is. A lot fail. And, there's, of course, the famous saying of how much money you make in the wine industry, and it's you start with a lot and then you end up with a little. So you have to have deep pockets, and you have to be ambitious, and you have to kind of make sure that you're in it for the long haul because, it's not a quick turnover kind of a business or an industry. So those who have lasted for generations now and decades are impressive. So it's really a treat to be able to be a part of one.
Yeah. Why don't you take my listeners and me through the highly respected brands that are part of the Far Niente family?
Yeah. Well, I'll start in the beginning. Obviously, it was all started with Far Niente, and that was the restoration. And the first vintage happened in 1979, and that was Cabernet, and then they started making Chardonnay shortly afterwards, and that is really the staple and the foundation for everything else that has come. And it seems like there is like a very specific, every decade something else came about. So Dirk Hampson was the first winemaker and director of winemaking. And he, Champagne was doing their thing, Sauternes was doing their thing, and he was like, it'd be really nice to have either something before or after dinner kind of wine too, not just the main course that they were doing with Chardonnay and Cabernet. And he kind of, I don't know if he necessarily flipped a coin, but a lot of other people, like Schramsberg and Chandon, other places were starting to kind of ramp up on the sparkling front. So let's do something different, and let's really specialize and focus in a dessert wine. So Dolce was the next label created, and that was in 1989.
Wow!
And that is after dinner dessert wine. Absolutely fantastic, made in true Sauternes style. So it's Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon are the majority of those grapes. They wait until they get the noble rot, botrytized. There's a whole system that goes into it. Really fascinating.
Yeah.
And they've go ahead.
I noticed on the website they call it liquid gold, and that's an ideal description for the appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it is like, being that it has, a certain level of residual sugar in there, there is a different kind of viscosity and texture to the wine as well. So it's not, I don't want to say it's a syrup, but there's a slow pour, and it's almost like, coming out of a gold mold, is just pouring out of that bottle. So, bottle is beautiful. The wine's absolutely lovely. And I'm really, again, I'm happy that they kind of stuck to their guns and are still making it, to this day. And there's a brilliant winemaker, Greg Allen, who's in charge of that program right now. Absolute certified genius, and one of the funniest people I've ever met too. So it's a good duo. Right. And he's incredibly passionate. And he did say that the winemaker over at Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is kind of the gold standard for dessert wines, back in the mid '90s, even sent him a note and said, "Hey, Greg, not bad." Which by French standards, I think that means pretty damn good.
Right.
They're not known for compliments, so that's about as good as you're going to get.
He's Michael Accurso, a winemaker at Far Niente. He's taking us through the different brands that belong to the Far Niente wine family. And coming up, their new brand, Post and Beam. Now he touches upon Nickel and Nickel.
So Nickel and Nickel was the next endeavor, and that was kind of a, again, as things were progressing in Napa, Gil was really good about kind of promoting what the next thing is and really just go for it. So at that time, people were obviously getting really into the groove of classic Napa Cabernet, Chardonnay. There's a handful of other varietals, but obviously those are the 1-2 punch when you're talking about Napa. So he was thinking about ways to differentiate from what everyone else was doing at the time, and he created this program through the Nickel and Nickel Winery that focused on vineyard designate wines. So, just as you have those in Burgundy and Bordeaux, it's vineyard specific spots. And not too many people, if any, were doing that in Napa at the time. So in 1997, that was launched, and it was really a way for customers and visitors and even the winemaking staff at the time to focus 100% on the site and what that site could bring to the table. And it's an insanely, like, every winemaker wants to do that, right? Every winemaker just wants to make the wine from that one vineyard and show it off.
Yeah.
Joe Harden is currently the winemaker, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's learned from a long line of really talented Napa winemakers, and he's been working with really good Napa fruit for a long time, and he's kind of continuing to do so and really putting his stamp on the label and really putting his stamp on some really interesting sites around Napa Valley.
Of all the brands in the Far Niente family, I would say that, and I could be wrong here, but I think Nickel and Nickel has a little more notoriety and familiarity than the other ones, even Far Niente.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you're talking to.
Sure.
But there's a really, really strong following with Nickel and Nickel, and people who are fans are super fans, and they have been for a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, as soon as I started working for Far Niente, everyone is like, "Oh my God, that's such a great job! That's awesome!" Nickel and Nickel wine's my favorite wine. Far Niente is my favorite Chardonnay. Like, the people love the wines, absolutely, and all the way from friends I went to college with to my parents and my parents' friends too. So it has a wide range of fans and followers, and it just depends on who you're talking to. But there are some Nickel and Nickel super fans. I'm going to say that right now.
And your family and friends love the fact that you're working there.
Oh yeah. I've turned them all into snobs, completely unintentionally. But it's a really funny thing. When I bring a bottle of wine to my parents' house, and I've gotten to the point where I used to be able to sneak a let's say lesser quality bottle across the table when I was kind of coming up in the wine industry, and they've kind of come to realize what's the good stuff and what's the bad stuff, which isn't a bad thing, but I can't fool them anymore. Let's put them that way. But they know it's good, and they expect it now. But they had to put up with me for a long time, so they deserve it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I put that monkey on my daughter's back, too, and she's gotten used to some really good wine. And I do buy her some for, presents and such. But she's on her own for the rest of it, and I think she's finding it's kind of pricey to get the really good stuff.
It is pricey. So being a part of the industry has its perks for sure.
Yeah. How about En Route?
En Route. So En Route is the label that I'm actually making, which is really fun. And that is based out of Russian River, and that is Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And that was kind of a thought process that, obviously we mentioned Chateau Chevalier a while back, but in that late 90s, early 2000s, people really started getting the Pinot bug. And of course, there's the infamous sideways moment where that really just exploded. But it was getting notoriety before that. But, we were looking for some properties and some land, basically all the way from Santa Barbara up to Oregon, and figuring out what was the expression of Pinot Noir specifically that we wanted to bring to the table. And in doing so, we chose Russian River Valley. Happened to be over the Mayakama Ridge from most of the other vineyards and wineries that we were working with, and just really expressive of the site. It has kind of a wide range of wine styles that can be made there. There's some pretty heavy-handed, really fruit-forward, big extracted Pinots, and there's everything from a really, really light, kind of sexy and elegant Pinot Noir that's made to if you get closer to the Sonoma coast. So that range kind of allows you to pick and choose from vineyards and sites that you would like to craft the kind of wine style that you're going to. So it's been a real treat to be able to do that. And that label was launched in 2007, and it just hasn't turned back. It's really widely distributed. And it's a great wine that pairs with a variety of foods, really fruit forward, has a little bit of structure to it, not that super fleshy, way too extracted Pinot Noir, but it definitely has layers, and there's some backbone to it. So it's a beautiful. It's got
to match those Cabernets that you're making.
Well,
the same style.
I mean, a lot of times, it doesn't stand up to it. So I got to flex a little bit and kind of get on their level. So I'm not afraid to do it.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody over here appreciates you adding some Sonoma County grapes to your portfolio.
Yeah, and it's fun. And like I said, I grew up in Napa, but I have worked in a lot of different places: Central Coast, Mendocino County, up in Anderson Valley. In Napa and Sonoma now, and I just love the diversity, and I love the salt of the earth kind of down home feel that Sonoma brings, and it's just a treat to be out there.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones to have dual citizenship, and I live in Napa and work in Napa and Sonoma County, and it's I couldn't be happier. I really got the best of both worlds.
That's
going.
Great. Yeah. Did I see too that you were a winemaker for Bella Union?
I was from 2018 to just beginning of this year. I was the Bella Union winemaker as well. So those wines, that program started in 2012, and it was kind of to showcase what a blend of Napa Valley Cabernet could be. We since then have launched a Sauvignon Blanc and a Rutherford-based Cabernet as well. So that's been a really, really, really fun endeavor and a good way to kind of, get your feet into both counties and everything. Wines are fantastic. And, it's a good way to express other sites and do a blended Cabernet for Napa Valley. Because there's so much that valley has to offer. I used to think everything was totally, unilateral, and it was either mountain fruit or valley fruit, and it couldn't be more different than that. There's all of those AVAs, those American viticulture areas are established there for a reason, because they all deliver a certain structure. I mean, Calistoga is more of that, kind of ripe, more of the jammier fruits, and then you get the, especially when you get into Howell Mountain or Diamond Mountain, you get a completely different tannin structure. Rutherford, you get some of that dusty tannins, but really smooth red fruit. Oakville is just this big, brooding, botanical, sappy fruit. You get down into Oak Knoll, and it's really blue fruit driven and has some shoulders to it. So it's just a crazy, diversity that you don't really think about until you start doing it. And, that there's 100 ways to make it.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the benefit of having the flexibility of doing those blends, because you get to work with all those different flavors from across the valley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we're coming up to the new brand.
Yeah, so it's something we just kind of delivered. It's called Post and Beam, and that is paying homage to the architectural design that is the Nickel and Nickel Winery. It's a post and beam style architecture on the fermentation barns there.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, keep it in the family, keep it a good idea. But there's something that's happening, and I'm guilty of it because I'm in this age group as well. But my friends, a lot of people in the industry aren't, the high end collectors that we've seen in generations past,
mm-hmm.
and we're looking to kind of get back to the classics and a little bit back into lower intervention winemaking, and also at a lower price point. So being creative with how to kind of sculpt and mold that is what we're working on with Post and Beam. So it's Napa Valley Cabernet and it's Napa Valley Chardonnay, but it's really trying to find the best expression of those, and also doing it for, more or less the every night drinker, if you want to.
Yeah.
Because as nice as it is to have some really, really expensive Napa Cab, I mean, I had this conversation with several people, especially in the last year. We've seen wine consumption going up, but you're not grabbing those. You're not grabbing those $200 bottles anymore. You're looking elsewhere.
Yeah. So it's handcrafted, authentic Cab and Chardonnay without the pretense.
Exactly, and that's always been my approach. Shoulders down. I want to be in the cellar. I want to be working with the guys. I want to be out in the vineyards. I want to be doing this. You're never going to see me coming to work in a brownie suit or anything like that. So let's make some wines that are super expressive, and let's make some wines that we can all love and enjoy every day too.
Yeah. So it's amazing what you can put together with different brands that focus on Cabernet and Chardonnay and a few others here and there. But Far Niente's family is doing a great job of doing very specific, unique things.
Yeah, and that's by design too, right? And
sure.
You asked me earlier if what's it like to work for one of these heritage or tradition wineries in Napa, and it's amazing, and it's also amazing to work for a place that isn't afraid to adapt and isn't afraid to create, and we get a lot of autonomy, we get a lot of leash, and that doesn't mean we get to do whatever we want to do, but we can try and see if it's going to work, and then if it does, let's just full throttle it and take it where it needs to go.
Like Dolce, I never would have guessed Dolce had been around as long as it has.
Yeah. I mean, it's what, 30 years now? Yeah. So
that's great. Of all the brands that follow the Far Niente design style, is there a name for that kind of style or font that you guys use?
Well, the original artwork was done by a guy named Tom Rodriguez, and he actually has a vineyard up and winery up in Yorkville. So he partnered, with the original ownership and helped kind of craft that. And again, it helps when things look similar. You kind of get that label recognition and all that. But he has a very unique style of art. Obviously, it attracts the eye, and it's so differentiating from the rest of what you see on labels that it's a nice way to just kind of, if you're looking at a shelf, you know exactly which bottle is a Far Niente bottle or a Nickel and Nickel bottle or an En Route. There's no, and you see it too, and it's noticeable. So, I like the beautiful, unique nature of it.
It reminds me of the old Parisian posters, and with a whimsical and kind of a fairy tale look about it.
Yeah, and it's funny too. I think there was some, I want to say, inspiration for what you just said that came from. I mean, if you've ever had the pleasure of going to Far Niente, it's like a whimsical. You think that you're in some sort of the fern gully, or, you think that the pixies are going to come out and carry you away. It's a very whimsical place. The gardens are absolutely beautiful. The landscape is, carefully orchestrated and absolutely beautiful too. So it really goes hand in hand with the grounds and the label.
A not so secret garden over there.
Yeah, exactly. The secret garden you can visit. Let's put it that way.
Right. Michael, have you noticed or have you found the wine club and the wine drinking community have supported your brands during this challenging COVID era? I did notice that a few of your wines are sold out on your website.
Oh, above and beyond. I mean, the fact that we're sold out, like you just said, and the fact that we're on plan pretty much from what we were saying we were going to be last year is astonishing. Yeah. So hats off to them for stepping up. Like, here we are, and we're going to charge on, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to figure it out as we go. Have some fun while we're doing it. Luckily, when you got wine involved, everyone's going to have a good time.
Generally, yes, for sure. Well, hey, Michael, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me and fill me in on the brands of Far Niente.
Yeah, Jeff, I appreciate it. It's been great talking to you, and happy to share a little bit about the background and what we're doing here and what's to come.
Well, take care, Michael, and yes, let's sit down and have a drink sometime when we can in the future.
Absolutely, Jeff. Looking forward to it.
Winemaker Michael Accurso, who gets the extreme pleasure to work at the Far Niente family of wineries. It's magical and a place where dreams come true for winemakers and wine lovers. For outdoor tastings, go to farnientefamily.com. In the menu, click Visit, then visit our wineries. I can't wait to get over there myself, hopefully soon. Next, we'll go from the luxury wines of Far Niente to the super luxury and iconic fine and collectible wines from the Benchmark Wine Group after this break. All right, let's get back on the wine road. However, once again, I'm on the wine phone with a very interesting guest who can take you into a winery or a wine collector's cellar and offer you one of their bottles or more, in a sense. If you're near a computer, look up benchmarkwine.com and scroll along as we touch upon the many rare and fine wines Dave Parker has access to. I said to Dave, your website is like a candy store for wine collectors and a deliciously deep resource for anyone wanting to explore rare and fine wines.
Yeah, some people have called it a treasure trove. We've got about 13,000 different rare wines and fine wines at any given time, and on the order of 75 to 100,000 bottles. It's constantly changing. Those are wines from all over the world, all the great wine regions, and vintages that go back to at least the middle of the century.
Wow. How long have you been curating that collection, you and your team?
Yeah, we got started back in 1998 with the predecessor for Benchmark, and that would be Brentwood Wine Company, really the first internet rare wine auction house. And that grew, and we added Benchmark in 2002. So we've been working that long to find the world's best wines and make them available to people in great condition.
You must have some excellent relationships to get some decent prices.
Yeah, we get some of these from local distributors, but most of them are brought in from the best wine brokers in Europe, and we're the largest private wine cellar buyer in the country. We have a lot of contacts with some of the best and biggest wine cellar owners.
Wow. I saw a reference to restaurants, and they find your website is a good place to track down rare wines as well.
Yes, about 20% of our business is to Michelin Star and Wine Spectator Award of Excellence restaurants. And they I think, love our selection. It lets them distinguish themselves and not just offer great fine wines, but well-aged bottles go back decades, and a lot of diners at those types of restaurants really appreciate the extra nuance that the age brings.
Yeah, Benchmark is a great resource for them as well. And unfortunately, restaurants haven't been doing as much business this past year, but you've seen, and I have heard, that online wine sales have been a welcomed result of the shelter-at-home era.
Oh, yeah. It's way up. Direct-to-consumer, shipped to their house, has been sort of the silver lining in this this 2020 cloud, which has hurt a lot of restaurants quite badly, and that they've had to be shut down for such a large period of time. But we try to help them the best we can. We have programs to help the sommeliers and to help the restaurants themselves either monetize their wine or take wine in to fill in corners that they may have not had time to otherwise source the product.
Yeah, I heard that you've been offering some generous discounts to restaurants and also doing some programs for the sommeliers.
Yeah, no, we think it's very important that they remain strong. We all want those restaurants back after this thing's over.
As I mentioned a minute ago, the Benchmark Wine Group is a deep resource for consumers of fine wine, and so deep that you've broken it down into several different levels on your website, your offerings. One is called the Devoted Cellar for devout collectors. You have the Vintner Cellar, featuring back vintage allocations for esteemed producers from Bordeaux, Burgundy, Italy, and California, and a level called Direct from Europe, 100-point wines, and even a Today's Offer section.
Yes, we're continually offering new wine virtually every day from all of our various sources, and where we get a really great wine cellar where all of that wine has been stored together and put together by one collector. We will put it out as one of our featured cellars, a couple of those you mentioned. And that way somebody sort of gets the feel of the personality of the original collector. And if he or she finds they really like how well those wines have been aged and taste, they can buy more from exactly the same source.
Yeah, kind of a virtual step into someone's cellar in some of these.
Yeah, that's sort of was the exact idea, that each day you can go into somebody else's cellar and they're there to talk to you about it and give you a little flavor of why they put it together the way they did, and you can sort of choose the things that you like to add to your own cellar.
Nice.
Or have that evening.
Honestly, most of these wines are priced in the super luxury category and icon wine, which is the ultimate. But I did see some as low as $30 and $45 and a number under $100.
Oh, yeah, we have an entire category under $100, and you're right. Some of them are down around $30, $35. Just because they're well-aged and well-made doesn't mean they have to be super expensive by any means.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to fear like they shouldn't go there and look at what you have to offer. You can probably reach out to just about anybody.
Yeah, we try to cover the entire range of collectors, and people have just discovered fine wines too. So, we like to take people from what they would find at a good wine shop or their grocery store with the help of a professional, and take it to the next step, and then stay with them throughout their collecting and wine enjoying life, their career.
Yeah.
Try to have something for everybody.
I saw you even have a section that's dedicated to the world-renowned Petrus of Pomerol in Bordeaux, and that is, for those whom money is no concern.
Oh yeah, that's right. Chateau Petrus is famous as just about the greatest wine in Bordeaux. It's actually, strangely enough, made mostly with Merlot.
Mm-hmm.
Domaine Romanée-Conti would be the Burgundy equivalent. Very, very high-end, very, very well thought of, very, very treasured by the people that have it. And we have quite a stock of that producer in hundreds more, and at the high level and all the way down to what you and I would probably call affordable.
Yeah, right. Yes, the word affordable covers a wide spectrum among consumers. But Benchmark Wine Group is determined to reach out to all levels of wine lovers, even younger demographics.
Yeah, we've got quite a few millennials now that are discovering us. I think that they actually have shown interest in wine almost more than the so-called Gen Xers, the generation preceding them. I think they're very adventurous. Mm-hmm. And we have specific programs to reach out to them. So we've got some of the top sommeliers in the country and will bring one on board each month, and they'll sort of curate a selection of our cellar with a specific theme, generally in the affordable price range. We have I guess you would call it a Zoom TV show these days, Rate Your Cellar, where people can log on and watch live or recorded some of the top sommeliers and other wine professionals in the world, sort of describing what they love about it. And there's generally a tasting set that goes with it of affordable bottles, and you can pre-order those and taste along or do them at your own time frame. We have a number of other programs, including wine clubs, that can start very affordable and move up to some very high-end wines. You can have those delivered to you weekly or monthly, as you like, and discover new things every time.
Yeah, I bet. Were you doing these kind of virtual tastings before the pandemic?
No. In fact, we were doing it the old-fashioned way. We'd go out and have dinner events with people all over the country and get to meet them that way. And when the pandemic came, we kind of had to pivot a little bit because we wanted to maintain that personal relationship. And it also, we had the sommeliers available and interested in doing this, and it all kind of came together very well.
Yeah, there's a number of things due to this era that I think a lot of people are going to continue to do. I know a lot of wineries are planning on continuing to do virtual tastings, and you probably will some form as well.
Oh, we absolutely will, and in virtual meetings and a large number of other virtual events. We're now meeting with providers in Europe and communicating with them via Zoom, and it's a lot simpler than flying out there. It's almost as personal.
Right. Yeah, I think the airlines are going to feel the pinch after we get back into the somewhat normal routine, because not too many people are going to be traveling as much as they used to.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I personally have a tremendous desire to get back on the road. Kind of looking at the inside of my home office for a year has kind of gotten a little tiresome. I can't wait to get back to some of the great wine regions and in the world. It sounds like you are too.
Well, that is very appealing as well. Sure. You so kindly offered to send me a bottle, which arrived yesterday. Thank you very much. And it was Macon Rioja from Spain. And it was a collaboration of Benjamin de Rothschild and Vega Sicilia. And what a nice surprise that was. I love that bottle. Have you tried it before, that particular one?
In fact, I have not tried it before, but I have it sitting here in front of me as we're talking. And it's an extremely interesting wine. I thought it would be a good representation of a relatively affordable but extraordinarily well-made and interesting wine from one of the hotter new regions these days. Spain has become extremely popular among collectors and adventurous new wine drinkers too.
You might find, as I did, the aroma offered cherries and chocolate and some spice. On the palate, though, it surprised me. I got an enhanced flavor of plum, some dark berry notes as well. And when I first opened it, I experienced what I was thinking of calling dusty tannins on my palate.
Yeah.
But as it opened up, it really softened, and it was a lovely wine.
Yeah, for a wine that's only 5 years old, it's really showing some tremendous complexity. You might have even picked up a little bit of, I guess, what we would call European terroir there, a little bit of leather, a little bit of smokiness, little black pepper, but little tobacco even, which would be a Rothschild sort of thing, a little toffee. I think it's a wonderful wine now, but you give it another 5 or 10 years, and it's going to show a lot of additional complexity. Oh. This is kind of what a fine wine is all about. It's been made to be a complete wine. Certainly, the wines you might pick up at the grocery store and drink that night are flavorful, but they don't have the complexity that the wine like this does.
Right, yeah, definitely a young wine for in that realm. And I wanted to point out, since I am promoting benchmarkwine.com, that Total Wine & More has that wine priced at $99. Your price is $89. Well,
I think you'll find that with most of the wines that we have. We're at or very close to the best prices in the country. And especially, given the fact that a lot of them have bottle age, you're really getting a value times two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think my listeners, if they're looking for an exceptional wine for themselves or as an impressive gift, be sure to visit benchmarkwine.com. You can tell them David sent you.
Absolutely. Fairly soon we'll be open again. We're on the south side of Napa. We'll be taking visitors to see our incredible treasure trove of a cellar.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, right now it's just curbside delivery, but we're hoping as we move deeper into the spring to be able to do that again.
I was not aware that you were allowing visitors in. I'll definitely make a plan to head over there and see that.
Just right down the road from you. You're in Santa Rosa, I believe.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's certainly well worth the drive.
Well, good.
Well, Dave, I appreciate your time and keep up the great work, and looking forward to scrolling around some more on your website.
Well, thank you, Jeff. We're happy to make new friends, and our cave is your cave.
I like hearing that. Dave Parker of Benchmark Wine Group. Find them at benchmarkwine.com, and there you'll find a 1995 Beaucastel Châteauneuf-du-Pape with a 95-point score from Wine Spectator for $124. There's a 2001 Clos Haute-Périgueux 325 milliliter Sauterne that received a 97-point score from Spectator for $39. Or how about a 100-point 2010 Chateau Petrus Magnum for $11,291? So whatever wine strikes your fancy and what your budget can allow, you can likely find it at benchmarkwine.com. I think I might go for that Sauterne. Hey, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Look for me at onthewineroad.com, and I'm on Instagram at jdwineroad. Continue to stay healthy, and I'll catch you next time here on the Wine Road. I'm Jeff Davis.